It was Christmas morning, 2021, when the first body showed up. I heard that even the police chief lost his breakfast when he saw it. The victim was discovered halfway up the main Christmas tree display in the middle of town. His body was draped with brown, insulated coveralls, the kind you'd see a construction worker wearing during the winter. The outfit looked like buttons, a bow tie, and other embellishments had been spray painted on. In the middle of his chest, the back of an arrow was protruding through. But that wasn't the worst part. Where his eyes used to be, there was now 2 large green light bulbs with blood dripping from them. His cheeks had been cut into a cartoonishly large bloody smile. Rumors came out that this dead man had been posting online repeatedly about how he wanted to kill himself, but he wasn't brave enough to go through with it. So he had been petitioning any serial killers or other people in the local area who are otherwise inclined to murder to come and take his life. While you could argue that this aftermath was therefore consensual, the police were still officially considering it a murder and were actively looking for a murderer. The story was huge national news for a week or two, but before long, everyone had seemingly moved on and forgotten about it, and the police appeared to have run out of leads. It wasn't until next Christmas that a pattern began to emerge. As the sun began to come up on Christmas Day, the police began to receive calls from concerned citizens about a child standing at a busy intersection next to the city's children's hospital. The child appeared to be about 5 years old and dressed up like a little drummer boy. The problem is that he was also dead. Upon closer inspection, his corpse was held upright by wooden dowels and posed to make him look like he was mid-drum beat. The parents of the boy undoubtedly had the worst Christmas morning of their lives when they woke up to find that their son was missing. It didn't take long before they had heard what had happened. One motorist claimed to potentially have seen the killer, but since it was still dark and she drove by quickly, she couldn't make out any details. She only saw a man wheeling what looked like a child in a wheelchair along the sidewalk. Aside from the time of day, this wasn't such a strange sight to see outside of a children's hospital. Soon the locals began to come up with their own names. Some referred to him as the Christmas Killer, others called him the Krampus Killer or the Namahage Killer, referencing other darker Christmas-related folklore from around the world. Another year passed without much happening. No one was arrested or even brought in for questioning in relation to these crimes. The people of the city were eager to see if the pattern would continue again. Most were fearful, and the news anchors encouraged everyone to stay home and lock their doors. The killer also had a cult following of people who admired him. That third year, the victim was a local high school teacher named Mrs. Partridge. Well, I should say she was a former teacher. After years of rumors and allegations that she was sleeping with underage female students in her classes, she was eventually convicted and fired. Although she never served prison time, she was classified as a sex offender and no longer allowed to work in schools again. Whether it was her reputation or simply bystander effect, none of her neighbors came to her aid when she was dragged screaming from her home that third Christmas Eve. The killer had set up a noose in a large pear tree in front of one of Mrs. Partridge's neighbors. He wasn't without a twisted sense of humor or irony, it would seem. He used the noose to hoist her up by the neck into the tree, then he quickly set a ladder against the tree and climbed it, crucifying her to it and vanishing long before police arrived. Although several neighbors looked on terrified from their windows, none of them were able to recall any identifying features to the police. A couple did mention that the hooded figure occasionally stopped during the process and looked up at their windows, but a toothy smile was the only thing that they could see through the shadows. The fourth year, that one is so gruesome that we don't talk about it. The whole town has tried to forget what happened. On the fifth year, the killer escalated to multiple victims for the first time. That Christmas morning, 5 large, custom-made, gold-colored metal rings were found hanging from a power line across a road just outside of town. Attached to each metal ring was a body. All 5 bodies were cheerleaders from a local college, all wearing their cheerleading uniforms. There was no apparent trauma to most of the bodies, except a large cylinder of flesh was missing from each body where their genitals used to be, as if someone had taken a hole saw to them. Now we're coming up on Christmas of year 6. Everyone in town feels like the killings will only keep happening, and they're powerless to stop them. I need to come up with something to top what I did last year. There's only a few days left to prepare.